So let's talk about some practical things a person can do if they've disconnected and they're not sure what to do different. All right. So here's some things you can do different. Number one, and this one is going to be a risk. That's why I put it at number one. All right. It's going to be a risk, but take the risk. Number one, open up and start confiding. Open up and start confiding in your spouse. Is it risky? Yes. Particularly if they've been invalidating or insensitive or neglectful over time. But you cannot build connection without confiding, because the way the brain connects is by confiding. This is why you see people who are disconnected, they start confiding with people on social media or at work. And you wonder why they go meet them? Because wherever you are confiding in someone, you're emotionally open to them. The brain has to have two things to bond to another person. First is emotional openness. You don't bond to someone when you're emotionally shut down with them, i.e. disconnection. And so you have to be emotionally open to someone. But here's the thing that the brain does. When the brain is emotionally open to a person, it wants to draw close physically. Because the two things the brain has to have to bond to another person is emotional openness and physical closeness. I learned from my teachers and mentors, particularly Dr. Lori Gordon, how to stay emotionally open and physically connected, closeness in conflict. And when I learned the skills for that, I'm telling you, our ability to handle conflict just took off in a healthy way. Just took off in a healthy way. So you've got to start opening up and confiding in each other. Confiding is the key to bonding. You got to start talking to each other. We know through research, when couples get in conflict, they start disconnecting. They stop confiding in each other. They don't talk about their day. They don't talk about the new things that are happening or the things they've read in the news. They just don't talk to each other. They don't confide in each other. Masterful couples, though, are confiding all the time. They're talking, they're sharing. Why? Because they value the connection. So the first thing you've got to do if you want to start reconnecting is you've got to take a risk and you got to start opening up and confiding in each other. In our work, we have a skill we call a daily touch point. Daily touch point is a structured confiding exercise. I raised my kids on this, and I still do it to this day with my bride. All right. Number two thing that you can do is you've got to start touching and being affectionate. I'm not talking sexual now. I might mean just grab their hand or put their hand on your shoulder, or when you walk by, something affectionate. There's something powerful about touch. Remember, the brain has to have two things to bond: emotional openness, and secondly, physical closeness. There's something powerful about touch. When couples get in conflict or disconnecting, they quit touching. They don't want to be touching. I don't want to touch. It's too much of a risk at rejection. Now, if you want to start reconnecting, you've got to open up and confide. That's being emotionally open. And secondly, start touching again. Start being affectionate. You know, maybe if you're sitting on the couch, say, hey, come over here and sit next to me. Maybe just reach over and grab their hand and squeeze it. Put your hand on their knee or something. All right. If you don't start doing those two fundamentals, you're going to find reconnecting very, very difficult. Okay. Now, number three, what if you spent some time together as a couple reminiscing? Reminiscing. Remember the good times in your marriage? You know, you might say, well, Rick, we've had a lot of bad times. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. A lot of couples do. I get that. But it wasn't all bad. What about when you were dating and how you met it? What about the things you did when you were dating each other in those early days of the marriage and the joys? You see, I think there's power in being able to step back and remember the good times and talk about those things and the things that happen where you just kind of made you laugh. Have you ever learned to laugh at yourself, by the way? It's a pretty powerful thing to do when you learn to laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously. Learn to laugh and learn to value each other. And I think one of the ways you can do that is remembering. There's a word when in Genesis 1, God made man in his own image. That the root word for man there is a word called zakar, Z-A-K-A-R. It's a Hebrew word. And you think, well, that's interesting. What does that word zakar mean? And God made man, zakar, in his image. The word zakar actually means remembering ones. Remembering ones. God made the remembering ones in his own image. There's something powerful about allowing yourself to remember. To remember. Remember your wedding day? Remember the first time you saw him or her? Remember the first time that you felt that love? Remember when the babies were born, how you felt toward each other then? Remember walking through a death together or something? You know, if I was to ever give up my marriage, I have all those memories, but somehow getting rid of the marriage would taint all of that. I'm just not ready for that. I like to step back and remember, to ponder and to think, because it reminds me there are good things. There are good things in our relationship. There are good things in Luella. There are good things in me. Number 4, and I think this one's very important, plan a weekly date night. You know, if you did a weekly date night, you could actually do the confiding and do the touching if you wanted to. I used to do when you were dating, right? And so plan a weekly date night. And I would encourage the date night not to be to go to a movie. You could do that if you'd like, of course. Have you ever noticed the difference between dating couples and married couples in a restaurant? It's really simple. In a restaurant, dating couples are talking to each other. Married couples are silent eating. Why? Because married couples didn't go out on a date, they went out to eat. Dating couples went out to eat as a part of a date. It's a very different motive. And so one thing we believe is go on a date night. Do some things that you like to do that your partner go do things your partner do that you wouldn't do. If you heard my lecture on the power of us, where I was talking about the idea that I don't like the mall, but us likes the mall. You know, us will go to the mall. That would be great for a date because that's not me, that's us. When us goes to the mall, that's not me, that's us. When us at the mall, we're walking, talking, holding hands, and dreaming. You see what I mean? And so plan a date night. And this next one I think is very important as well. And number 5 here, I would tell you every day, spend about 15 minutes, just you two, giving each other attention. Now you could do that using our daily touch point that we use in the Relate Well curriculum. Just say, how's your day? If you're in the faith community, how can I pray for you? And then actually pray for them right then and there. One of the things that Luella and I do every morning, literally about every morning, there's a few more we don't, so I shouldn't use the word every, but the majority of the mornings, we wake up, we'll just lay in bed and just hold each other and just talk for a little bit. Just talk. That connection, that bond. And then at the end of the day, we do the same thing. Even if I stay up later than her, we're going to spend some time just connecting, giving each other attention. Because when you give your partner attention, what's the message you're sending them? Is I value you. You matter to me. You are loved and lovable. Giving some attention also implies you might enter into their world. You see, that's why I would go to the mall. Because that's like Luella's world. She likes the beach. I don't like the beach. But I'll do that for her. It's a nice thing. So it's 15 minutes every day. Give your partner attention. When they say, I really need to talk, if it's not a good time for you to talk in that moment, then just tell them when is a good time. All right. Say, hey, how about in about 20 minutes, right? Do something that let's make sure by giving a person attention, what you're saying is, I value you, that you matter to me, that your thoughts and feelings matter, that you matter to me. Next, and this one I believe in strongly. If you call my cell phone and hear my voicemail message, it talks about this every day. Every day. I live this way, so I'm not telling you something that I don't do. I raised my kids on this when they were young. Every day. Share 2 things with your partner that you appreciate and are grateful for about them. It might be as simple as, I appreciate that you washed my clothes. I appreciate you took some time to listen to me. I'm grateful for the way that you love me. I'm grateful that we've been together all these years. We all need to hear that we do things well and that what we do matters to our partners. And that's the power of sharing an appreciation, of sharing a gratitude. Interesting thing about gratitude, brain research around gratitude is this. Whenever you are in a state of gratitude, gratefulness, your brain can't feel fear and it can't feel anger. Isn't that interesting? Whenever you move to gratitude, you won't feel fear, you don't feel anger. There's power in living a life of gratitude. That doesn't mean you live a life in denial that things aren't good. I mean, there aren't things happening. But in the midst of things that are happening, I can find something to be grateful for. I can always find something positive to be grateful for. That doesn't mean I live in la la land or in denial of reality. What it does mean, though, is I can see beyond this. I can see that even though this is going on in my life, there are other good things going on in my life. That takes objectivity, and it takes the ability to be in self-control of one's emotions and step into the higher order brain and think about the bigger picture. And there's a lot of power in that for oneself, which also translates into one's relationships. And so every single day, share 2 things that you're grateful for and appreciate. We all need to hear it. Now, here's another reason why I think you should do it. Brain research shows this as well. Whenever you share an appreciation with someone, a gratitude with them, when that person hears that appreciation or that gratitude, their brain releases a neurochemical called dopamine. You can say that with me, dopamine. What is dopamine? Dopamine is a neurochemical. It's a pleasure chemical. It's whenever it's released, there's a mood shift into pleasure. I always like to say it this way. How many dopamine shots do you give your spouse every day? Or does all your spouse hear is criticism, negativity, defensiveness, the things they don't do well? You see, we all need to hear the good things. There's an old proverb that says, pleasant words are pleasing to the soul. Well, how can pleasant words be pleasing to a person's soul? Dopamine. Appreciations are pleasant words. We need to be able to share appreciations and gratitudes every day with each other. And we need to hear it.